He's got one foot in the frying pan and one in the pressure cooker. Believe me, as a bowler, I know that right about now, your bladder feels like an overstuffed vacuum cleaner bag, and your butt is kind of like an about to explode bratwurst.
Hey, do you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling.
Was I talking out loud?
Welcome to Munsons at the Movies. My name is Kyle. I will once again be your host, joined by the rest of the Munsons. Want to give them a wide berth.
What is called a born loser? A real Munson.
And talk a little bit about what's going on in their worlds. We'll start this time with Case.
Well, I'm excited to talk about the man of the hour, William Atherton, tonight. And, I didn't have really anything going on to update y'all about, except this morning I got an email from the podcast chart update. And I shit you not, somehow we showed up in the top 75 in Brazil. And the episode hasn't even gone yet. And then I remember myself, oh yeah, there's something going down tonight. Our Brazilian famous guest is going to be joining us. So I'll let you introduce him later. Other than that, there's nothing going on in my world.
James.
Happy Pride Month. A little Christine Baranski's full on walking now. So Kyle, I might bring her on over to your housewarming party and show her off, as she can maybe make it like a good 10 steps before eating shit, but she's getting it.
There, let's go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kyle, have you kid-proofed the house just in case?
I have cigarettes everywhere, like in reasonable grasping distances. So does that count?
Yeah, it's perfectly ready.
Yeah.
It's impossible to kid prep for my kid because she craves danger. So even if you fucking put styrofoam on everything, she'd still find a way to get seriously hurt.
Aubrey.
There was a lot going on. Taught my kid how to ride a bike.
Hell yeah.
Watched a lot of dope movies. Wrote some things. Taught reading. But I feel like there's really only one update that matters here. Saw Fast 10. I had a great time.
All right.
And it's a Fast and Furious movie. It's exactly what I expected it to be. And it was a good time.
Aubrey, the movie you saw, they said the word family 56 times during it.
Are you serious?
Feels right because it was said so many times that I stopped hearing it.
That number is documented 56 times.
So ridiculous.
This podcast is so obsessed with that movie. I find myself at gatherings telling the most useless Fast and Furious. And people are like, well, you love those movies, don't you? I go, no, honestly, I don't. They're like, I don't know. You know a lot about them.
Wait till they find out only 2 of the 5 of us are actually fans of those movies. Rigby.
After reading some of the reviews of Killers of the Flower Moon, really looking forward to that this fall. Obviously, for those who listen to our DiCaprio episode, he's one of my favorites. And when you pair him with Scorsese, it's always going to be a good movie. So great book, too.
Yeah, it is.
That came out in 2017. So I'm excited to see that. It's going to be a long couple months to wait for that.
Would you recommend that book before watching the movie? Because I got a summer reading list, and I was debating.
Yeah, I would. If you have 5 months to read it, I would. If it doesn't come out till October, I would definitely do it.
Okay, will do.
In my world, I had to make a really unfortunate decision. I try to live the cheap life as much as I can, and that meant I had a limited number of phone minutes and texts lately, and I had to upgrade to unlimited because James just would not fucking leave me alone about going to see Fast X. And my life was just getting too in the way. So James, I'm going to Venmo you for the upgrade of my plan. And we still haven't gone. I've just been stiff arming him for the last week and a half. So God won't leave me alone.
I can't wait to see the cars and the stuff. I bet it's great.
Family.
It's about family.
Family.
It's for research, James. You got to do it for your segment, man. Come on now. That's what it's all about. But you know what? What it's really all about is the return of one of our favorite guests, our first ever Munson guest, Dan Craig. Back at it. He's a high school English and film teacher and has the dubious distinction of knowing Craig Case for the past 20 plus years. He was previously with us for Chris O'Dowd, Tim Roth, Willem Dafoe, David Spade, and Maggie Smith. What a potpourri of performers that is. Today, he becomes the first 6-time guest Munson. Welcome back, Dan Craig.
Woo! Those 5 individuals are just forming a band actually called Potpourri, and they have an album dropping this fall. So be on the lookout for that.
Is William Atherton joining
Yeah, Atherton's coming in on the next tour, winter tour of Poland and Iceland, coming out. So be on the lookout for him.
I just feel like he'd be the manager of the band. You know what I mean?
A percussionist.
He's a percussionist.
I would imagine so.
Shady manager. Shady manager.
Taking more than 10%. Yeah, definitely.
That's good. How's it going otherwise, Dan? Life's good?
Great. Great to be back here. Great to see y'all. I can't echo enough what you said about Killers of the Flower Moon. I actually just finished my second read-through of the book, and it's amazing. I can't wait for the movie to come out. And in personal news, my oldest son is now driving me home from school on a regular basis because he just got his permit. So that is a new, exciting chapter in our lives here.
For those that didn't know, Dan Craig apparently carries a lot of weight in the Brazilian podcast world. Every time he's on, our podcast numbers in Brazil shoot through the roof.
I cannot explain it, but I'll embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got many admirers. Well, we're an admirer as well. Happy to have you back, and let's dig into this thing. Episode 84. All right, Rigby. Birthdays June 1st. What do we got?
Yeah, we got a good list. Only two tonight, but two big ones. First up, Mr. Logan Roy himself and Hannibal Lecter in my favorite Hannibal Lecter movie, Manhunter, Mr. Brian Cox.
I don't think I've seen Manhunter, but like Silence of the Lambs is amazing.
It makes me want to watch it now, though.
It's good.
Manhunter is definitely different than Silence of the Lambs, but I like it more. It's a Michael Mann movie, and I like Michael Mann a lot.
Well, Brian Cox is most famous for Super Troopers, of course, but yes, he's also in Succession.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I'm glad he's getting his day because he's been in a lot of good stuff, and he'd be a fun guy to cover just because he's had some really good roles, and now he's like more famous than he's ever been. So I love that for him.
Yeah, he's the voice of McDonald's. He's doing great.
I always remember him as the dad in The Rookie. He takes the ball and throws it in the air at the end, and when Dennis Quaid gives him the ball. Cute.
I love The Rookie. It's like that movie so just hits the sweet spot. I like it a lot.
He seemed old in Super Troopers.
He was.
Yeah,
he was.
75.
Great guess. He's the main guy in Succession, and the main plot of Succession, without spoiling anything, is that he's too fucking old.
It catches up with him eventually, though, right?
Yeah. He's just old. You can't be that old running TV stations. I'll say a little older. I'm going to go 78.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. He's 77.
73? Gonna change the trajectory of where we're going here.
Getting claustrophobic.
I'll go 71.
Wow. If I would have guessed he'd be much older than all of you guys guessed. So, but he's turning 77. Kyle, you nailed it.
Oh, man.
Right on the dot. I thought he was older because, like you said, he was Super Troopers was what
2001.
Yeah,
2001, I think. And I thought he was in his 60s in that movie. So I was like, he's got to be mid 80s. But he's only 77. Still got a lot of career left.
Super Troopers came out in 2001. God, I'm on one right now.
Yeah, good job. All right. Second, we got Mr. Morgan Freeman.
Ooh.
He's in some of our favorites, I'm sure. Shawshank Redemption.
Damn.
Nominated in $1 Million Baby. Nominated in Driving Miss Daisy. Both those movies kind of stink, but he'll always be in my heart for Shawshank Redemption. That's for sure.
The Dave Chappelle commercial.
Morgan Freeman's old.
He guesses on MF.
He's always been old.
Yeah, 82.
85.
Give me 83.
Give me 80.
I'll take 82.
All right, Aubrey wins this one. He's actually turning 86.
Damn.
Back.
Makes sense.
Very old.
I think it's awesome that we gave both those guys a birthday shout out because they're two of the best older actors in Hollywood right now. So happy birthday to Brian and Morgan.
Absolutely.
This is episode 84, and we had 5 actors we threw onto the wheel. We had John Ortiz, James McAvoy, Mila Kunis, and Kevin Hart, but it did not matter because the wheel chose William Atherton, and Dan Craig was in on the joke and said, you know what, we're going to come do Will Atherton because that's going to be a lot of fun. And I agree. I think it's going to be a good time. Bill Atherton's got 90 credits on his resume, and that doesn't include a bunch of his theater work that he's done over the years. And of those 90, has 19 TV movies. So, that's a data point. We'll get into the rest of the data points as we go along. But before we get too deep into things, we always start with James and see if he can stump us Fast and Furious style with some trivia.
So I'll explain the rules. I'm going to read off 3 facts, 2 of which are going to be true about Billy Atherton. one of them is not going to be true about him, but is actually going to be true about one of the many cast members of the illustrious Fast and Furious franchise. Guys here have to guess which one isn't true. Fact number 1 was once slashed in the face with a broken beer glass at a club, which required 140 stitches and reconstructive surgery, and the assailant was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Fact number 2 claimed that he was once homosexual but became straight due to learning the philosophy of aesthetic realism. Fact number 3 once questioned the safety of a scene on a movie set so much that he requested a stunt double take his place for the shoot, even though he didn't have one. The stunt double filmed the scene and was hurt instantly, as he had predicted.
That is the most banana set of facts you've had in 84 episodes. It's insane.
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
I didn't want to spoil it in the chat.
Wow.
I'm going to go 3 is the lie, only because I really want that to be a Fast and the Furious character who wimped out on a stunt. I just don't know which one. Let's go Paul Walker on that one. Rest in peace.
James is always playing with a stacked deck. And at one of these times, he's going to throw a fastball by us and use somebody that the fans are really wanting to be in this movie that aren't yet. I'm going to dip my toe into the fan fiction world of Fast and the Furious. And I'm going to say that the lie is number 1. And that is about a future bad guy in a Fast and Furious movie, Cat Williams.
Let me tell you, Casey nailed it and kind of ruined the game for everyone else.
Yeah, way to go.
I love Cat Williams.
I genuinely have no idea. I literally don't know because these are all new facts for me. So this is good job, James. I think number 1 is a really intriguing fact. So I think that's not true about William Atherton, but I bet it's Charlize Theron. I bet it is. She's just a fascinating human. Would not be shocked if she had 140 stitches on her face.
Yeah, I feel like it's the third one, but I don't know who wouldn't have a stunt double on that set. So I'm trying to think of someone who wouldn't have a stunt double. I'm going to circle back on this one and go, I feel like this is a Tyrese thing. He would say something and he wouldn't have a stunt double yet early in the Fast and Furious run. So that's what I'm going with.
Ooh.
Waiting for one last guess.
I say number 1 is the lie, and I'm following Craig Case's lead there, and I'm going to go ahead and say, and again, I know nothing about Fast and Furious, have yet to see a single film. I know it exists, I know it's out there, and I haven't seen a single one. So I'm going to say a person who may have very well been in a film that I don't know about, but I would say number 1 belongs to Danny Trejo.
Ooh.
Yeah, he should be, no question. And I will say that no one guessed number 2, which is that he claimed he was once homosexual but became straight due to learning the philosophy of aesthetic realism. And seeing that it's Pride Month, I felt inclined that I had to share this story. On the Phil Donahue show in 1981 titled Are Gays Born This Way? A year after Atherton had become married to a woman who he is still married with today, he claimed on that show that he was once homosexual and changed due to the philosophical beliefs of aesthetic realism. While aesthetic realism still exists today, the foundation that supports this philosophy has widely distanced itself from the claims that homosexuality is a choice because, it's bullshit. The interview is still there, and it's still, you could watch it on YouTube, because I didn't want to make this claim on this podcast unless, I could confirm that this actually happened or it just wasn't an internet rumor. And I watched the whole thing, and sure as shit, it's him. And he's made no comments since then about this, but it was a wild thing to read. And I just hope he finds peace in his life at some point. Fact number 3. Once questioned the safety of a scene on a movie so much that he requested a stunt double take his place for the first shoot, even though he didn't have one. Stunt double filmed the scene, was hurt instantly, as he had predicted. That is true. That was on the set of Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
He did not have a stunt double for the scene where the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man explodes and he gets covered in marshmallows.
Yep.
And he said, he's like, I was looking up and it's just a big old dumpster filled with shaving cream. And he's like, and that's a lot of shaving cream. And I'm like, I don't know. I want a stunt double. And he's like, and they thought I was some sissy actor who was just needed to be catered to. And he's like, and I asked him, how much does that weigh? And like, well, the shaving cream itself weighs about 75 pounds. And he's like, the whole like high school science thing, 75 pounds of feathers or 75 pounds of bricks. It's like, you don't think that's going to crush me because it's still 75 pounds? And they're like, it's shaving cream. And they got a stunt double and it crushed him instantly. And so they cut it in half, and they're like, "What if we drop like 35 pounds on you?" He's like, "That's fine." And there you go. I thought that was funny to watch some dude get crushed by heavy shaving cream. Fact number 1 was one slash in the face with a broken beer glass. Not actually true about him, but the star that required 140 stitches and reconstructive surgery and led to someone being arrested and spending 5 years in prison. That was actually Jason Momoa, the new star of the Fast X movie that's in theaters right now. Atherton does mention how most of the fans he's greeted by dislike him because he's most famous for playing like a great asshole. But he said the worst thing that's ever happened to him was people calling him dickless because of Ghostbusters, and I got spit on once. He's never been cut in the face, though, like Jason Momoa.
I had a feeling you were going to go Momoa, and I bailed. Oh.
He's still got the scar. Like, you could see it. I mean, it helps being, Hawaii's model of the year. No one seems to give a shit about the scar, but you could tell.
Great facts and stories. Those are great.
Those are great.
Still cranking them out. Doing well.
That's right.
All right, Case, let's hear about that snapshot in box office history.
In the last couple episodes, you guys have really tested my ability to mine interesting facts as it relates to character actors from the 90s and 80s in movies as it relates to their box office performance. For Will Atherton, just a lot of gaps because he has done a lot of TV work, and a lot of the movies, including the one I'm going to cover, are TV movies, so we don't get any box office there. You know, he did another HBO movie, Dorothy Dandridge, that we talked about with Halle Berry. No box office stuff there. The data is pretty limited, but what I was able to come out of it, a couple of interesting notes. Because of Ghostbusters and a couple other movies that had relatively low budgets comparatively to their box office earnings, he does okay. He finishes 33rd in individual movie performance. He finishes 84th in Star Meter, which was foreshadowed by the fact that every time I told somebody who we were covering this week, they said, "Who's Will Atherton?"
I agree.
And I'm like, "Well, it's William. Maybe you know him by William Atherton?" And they're like, "Nope." And I'm like, IMDb meter is dead last. So that's where he ends up on that one. The areas that we evaluate everybody against, he's 67th in total box office, 84th in star ranking, 63rd in critic ranking, 56th in fan ranking. As I said, 33rd in one box office metric, 43rd in the other. And when you put that all into a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and explode it, it comes out at 69th.
Nice. Someone's got to be 69th. So proud of Billy Atherton for pulling that one off.
There you go.
It's higher than I thought it would be.
He's right ahead of Rene Russo and right behind Gabriel Byrne.
What a weird grouping of people.
Yeah.
What a sandwich of humans right there.
I would think Rene Russo would be higher than both of them.
Yeah.
In my mind, she's like a movie star, and the other two are like character actors. I don't know why.
I agree with that.
Numbers don't lie, I guess. Maybe Craig lies, but the numbers don't lie. So that's good.
I do not.
All right. Well, let's see how that Munson Meter matches up 60 to 69 when it's all said and done out of 84. All right. First major role we're going to cover is 1974. So the pre-1974 years with Bill Atherton. So first and foremost, he was born in 1947 for the dyslexic, just to challenge you. He was born in Orange, Connecticut. So we got a Connecticut boy. We covered a lot of folks from the Northeast lately, a lot of Boston, Massachusetts, and Connecticut folks.
Mm-hmm.
He studied acting at Carnegie Mellon there in Western Pennsylvania. Graduated in 1969.
I know Carnegie Mellon is known for a lot of great academic stuff. Is its acting school a notable or prestigious acting school?
I think so. I've seen it pop up a few other times. Not quite Juilliard, but
okay.
What you'll notice if you research Bill Atherton's life is he very much got his start in the theater. So doing a lot of stage productions, trained on the stage. And so he got his Broadway start in New York City right around that same time he graduated from Carnegie Mellon, right there around 1970. So very, very busy on the stage. His first off-stage role was in 1972's The New Centurions. He played Johnson. And then a year later, he was a fraternity president in class of 44 Shout out to him.
What fraternity?
I don't know. I didn't see it. Anybody else see Class of 44?
No, missed that one.
No, man.
I definitely buy him as a jerk fraternity president. That's great.
Yes.
Oh, so he's got Delt's energy, is what you're telling me, right, Rick?
Big teak, bro, you know? I think he was a member of Uzma Kappa. That would be my best guess. Little Monsters University shout out there. But he hits the stage in 1974's The Sugarland Express. He plays Clovis, and I'm really excited to hear James talk about it because, spoiler, I loved this movie and I really liked him in this role. So I'm very interested to hear if James aligns with me.
So Sugarland Express, it's actually based on true events of May of 1969 when fugitives Robert and Ella Faye Dent kidnapped a state trooper, Kenneth Crone, commandeered his car, and led police and other law enforcement officials on a chase throughout Texas with the plan to go kidnap their own son back from the foster home in which the state was keeping him at because they were two low-level criminals. Let me tell you, the movie actually stays pretty true to the story, which is impressive because the story itself is more fascinating because of how non-action packed it is. The vast majority of this car chase is slow, and it's 150 police cars going throughout Texas, and they're not speeding, and these people kind of become like folk heroes essentially, which is interesting because the movie itself portrays that really well. So it stars a young Goldie Hawn and William Atherton as the famous couple. It's also the directorial debut of a director you guys may have heard of before. His name's Steven Spielberg, who was 26 when he made this movie. And let me tell you, you can kind of see the talent already. It's like a complete movie, and it doesn't feel like it's cut or like it's made in a way that is kind of like jarring where you're like, oh, all right, this is a guy like straight out of college, but he'll figure it out. It's like, I don't know, it came together really well. And you could already see kind of like the classic Spielberg stuff where like there's the huge set pieces where there are side characters that are kind of black and white where it's like, hey, here's a good guy, here's a bad guy, here's the people we're running from, here's the people that are with us. But it is also very Spielberg-esque in that like the visuals of it are probably the better parts of the movie. And I think it starts off kind of light and fun, and it's like a romp of like, oh, the hijinks this couple that broke out of prison is going to get into, and it's all to save their kid. But the story itself has like a unhappy ending. And it's one of the few Spielberg movies that has an unhappy ending. And also, I guess it's based on a true story, and the true story has an unhappy ending, which I think made me like the movie a little bit more. And I thought Atherton was good in this. I agree, Kyle. I think you could see the kind of star power of Goldie Hawn, but like, I think they did have a chemistry, and they had the chemistry of like that crazy couple that's trying to, figure it out, even though all their ideas are kind of like half-baked and a little stupid. I enjoyed it.
We'll talk about Ghostbusters and roles like that where people will remember him. But as a lead actor in a film, this is, I think, his best work. And it's wild because he's such a young, raw actor. Spielberg met him when he was in New York and essentially recruiting for roles. He's the emotional center of the film. And there's a moment in the movie, and I watched this video, a guy was talking about breaking this down. And when I saw the film, there's a scene where he and Goldie Hawn are watching cartoons, they're watching Looney Tunes from the next door trailer, and he's like voicing the characters. And then there's this incredible shot where he's watching, and you can see the reflection of Wile E. Coyote, and you see his expression change because he realizes like, I'm not getting out of this thing unscathed. I'm not getting out of this thing alive. It was at that moment I was like, God damn it, Spielberg, good.
Mm-hmm. You could see the talent already.
Holy moly. So, and I thought he was phenomenal as Clovis. I wish I'd seen more of this throughout the rest of his career. He peaked for me in 1974.
His first role.
Literally.
How cool is it? His first role is also Steven Spielberg's first movie. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. When you ask him about it now, he's like, it didn't really click for me at that time because like, it's like Goldie Hawn was already a star.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't to ascend to the level that she became. But it's like, yeah, she was an award-winning actress. I was working on Broadway, and here's a guy who everyone says is like this genius, like savant filmmaker. It's like, but we're all like 24. So it's like we're a bunch of kids hanging out in Texas for like 3 months. You don't really realize how big everyone is going to be after this.
I think Jaws came out the next year, and that's sort of
right, exactly. And so
on the map didn't take him long, right?
You meet someone and you're like, yeah, they're a cool coworker, and then you find out your cool coworker is one of the greatest directors of all time. It's like, well, I didn't feel that way when I was 20. It's like I didn't know that was going to be the case.
Yep.
You guys had me at Goldie Hawn.
I watched this one too. I was blown away. I saved this one towards the end because I'd never seen this one. It was the first watch for me. It's incredible. It's just fully incredible. I think I might like it even more. I've been kind of buzzing about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That scene with the cartoons, the scene the next morning when he's talking to the officer about like what's going on. I mean, Spielberg is one of the GOATs, so it's kind of hard to classify him in like simplistic terms, but I always attach him to the idea of like anytime a director can capture like true wonder, like a wondrous moment or something that like creates like a genuine like childlike wonder, I always equate that to him because I think it's almost impossible to do that on film, and so many directors fall short of it, and he just does it time and time again. What I was struck with in this was his way to just generate empathy.
Mm-hmm.
All the way through this movie, he's just building this empathy machine where everyone, like the layout of what these kids essentially, because that's how they're acting, did, what they lost because of what they did, which really wasn't that bad. So you get a movie that's really interesting to watch at 2023.
You feel so bad for him when they pull up to that house and she's like, go get him. He's at, and the cop's like, I wouldn't do it. This is the vibe's off. It's too quiet.
Yeah.
And she's screaming at him to go in there. And you could tell every ounce of him is like, nah, it's a bad idea. But like, I'm doing it for love.
That was so impressive about William Atherton to me is that he does all the heavy lifting here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Goldie Hawn's carrying it, like, because she's like a star. So she's kind of carrying it.
But there's no nuance to her character at all. She's just fanatic.
He brings all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of pick apart her situation for some of that empathy, which is just great writing and great directing, but she is pretty one note in a way that like keeps you engaged. It's a great performance from both of them, but he does a lot of the heavy lifting. Even in that scene that you're talking about, he's the one struggling. Like you can tell he knows, and he's like, what? No, I don't want to do this, but I guess I got to do it. I think it's a brilliant movie. But William Atherton is really impressive.
It's just really good. Highly recommend people go check it out. It's not streaming free. You'll have to pay to rent it, but it's worth every penny.
So worth it.
Worth every penny.
How was his performance of When My Blue Moon Turns to Gold?
Solid. Not a top 5 moment for him, but
he's already got 2 performing credits. He also performed What'll I Do in A Great Gatsby by now. So our man is on the fast track to the top.
Make a note. Other talents for that Munson Meter later. You know what's coming.
6 years before he became straight, which is, wild. Fucking crazy, dude. Crazy.
We've got 9 years until our next review. And so in that span of 75 to 84, we see him play Borth in the Hindenburg in 1975. Another one of those, if you look on someone's IMDb, their top 4 roles, another one that shows up is The Day of the Locust. He's played Todd, 1975, a remake. I watched it. It was hard for me to get through. It's about old Hollywood and a young starlet and essentially the men and folks who are kind of rallying around this young starlet who's kind of a hot mess. And he plays one of those individuals at the center of the story. He gets mangled pretty hardcore by the end of the movie, but I struggled with the film itself. I did not enjoy it, but he's perfectly fine. Again, another leading role and one of his bigger roles over the years.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I wish I would have because I love Donald Sutherland and I like Karen Black a lot too.
They are the other main actors.
Even though she was a Scientologist, that's okay.
She plays a batshit crazy person in this movie, so right on brand.
Yeah, in every role, she's like the manic, just crazy woman. But she does it very well.
This movie was like the proto Babylon. If anyone saw Babylon out there, right? This is like the original Babylon. Yeah,
a masterpiece, according to Aubrey.
I love Babylon.
Was that vomit sound because of the movie or my opinion?
Both.
Yeah.
A couple years later, he played James in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, which I think is a phenomenal film title. and first and foremost. He played. I watched a little bit of the character. It's kind of like it's an oddball type of character, so it's a little bit different than some of the other things. He's very worrisome. It's a very worrisome character, and it's almost like he's a hypochondriac. He's got that kind of mentality. So it's unique. It's different. Unfortunately, the only place it was streaming, it's a really bad quality version on YouTube. So it wasn't a great viewing experience.
This is one of his better box office movies. It had a $2.5 million budget, and it pulled in $23 million. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the 70s. Holy shit.
I wonder if they only found crackles, or if they ever found Mr. Goodbars in there. No.
Boo.
Aubrey's laughing. That's good.
I'm ashamed that I'm proud and embarrassed of that joke at the same time.
I'm laughing at the boo. Sorry.
So his first big TV show role was in Centennial. Played Jim Lloyd. 10 episodes of that from 78 to 79.
We're going to continue to go through this, but I'm a massive fan of the names of his characters. Jim Lloyd.
Borth.
Richard Thornburg. He's
Clovis.
Yeah, Clovis Poplin. Come on. Guy's got great names.
That's worth a couple points, I think. Those are great names. I agree. Good. That's what 84 episodes in, and you're picking up the important stuff, Case. And I appreciate it. And then, as James alluded to earlier, he converted away from the gay to marry Bobby Golden in 1980.
He just decided he was not going to be gay anymore.
Gay ain't the way.
That's a bizarre story.
I'm going to give him credit that he said it 40 years ago, and that maybe he's wised up since then.
Let me tell you, you don't have a lot of comments from him since then. I'll say that much.
I was going to say, he probably hasn't talked about it since.
Oh, man, that's pretty good. All right, so that's going to get us the highest critic score in 1984's Ghostbusters. Walter Peck. Rigby drew it.
Yeah, I got lucky this week. Everyone knows Ghostbusters. This is obviously a 80s classic, comedy classic, whatever you want to call it. Great comedy trio in Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, and Dan Aykroyd. They play parapsychologists who basically are psychologists who dabble in the paranormal and the afterlife. And when they lose their university positions, they decide to start a ghost, we'll call it a ghost busting
Operation.
Operation, yeah. The movie's, it's a classic, as we all know. It's got some hilarious one-liners from Bill Murray, some hilarious, even slapstick, just ridiculous comedy that we all know and love from this era. Atherton plays what I think is his sweet spot. He plays an EPA official who gets word of the Ghostbusters operation, sees it as a threat, and wants to shut it down, and is basically standing in the way of everything that the three are doing, plus Ernie Hudson at this point, I should say, so 4. But he's a total just jerk in this. He's just a smarter know-it-all than you sort of government agent, and really, really does a good job playing the villain. He's obviously not the biggest character in the movie. That would go when you're going up against those 4, maybe even 5 if you throw Sigourney Weaver in there.
Yeah.
And Rick Moranis.
And Rick Moranis, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Tough to not be overshadowed by those guys, but I think he does a really good job as the villain. He's got a very punchable attitude, very punchable just face, and yeah. Not as punchable as Die Hard, which we'll get to. That's actually my favorite role of his, but this is up there for me. So
hate that clown.
Netflix has a great documentary series about movies that we all grew up with, and in season 1, Atherton's in 2 out of the 4. And Ghostbusters is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
I think I know what the second one is, right?
Ghostbusters basically cemented him as the go-to asshole in movies in Hollywood.
It's funny. I think I read an article that said that he played the perfect jerk of the 80s. It was him and the guy from Karate Kid and Back to William Blufko or whatever his name is.
Zapka.
Yes, he's in Cobra Kai. Yeah, that's a really good moniker to have, I think, because when you're in these movies that kind of stand the test of time, like Ghostbusters, like Die Hard, you'll always have a place in Hollywood history, whether you had a sort of a good career or not, which I think we can argue is debatable when we get to his Munson score. He'll always have this. So, and yeah, Ghostbusters still stands up.
Yeah, it does.
Even with all the shit you hear about Bill Murray these days, I still enjoyed it. So
That first interaction with Bill Murray, well, he shakes his hands, got the goo on his hands, and he touches his arm. You could tell he's so uncomfortable with that particular situation.
yeah,
And you're like, man, Bill Murray can sense an asshole from a mile away. Killing it.
I think the funniest line of the movie is the dickless line, and whether or not he wants to be associated with not having a dick is not up for debate, unfortunately. So
He says it's the thing he gets the most.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I get from fans the most.
Atherton said in that documentary that a lot of the scenes with him and Bill Murray were basically improvised. If you guys haven't seen any of those shows, you got to watch them. They're so interesting.
yeah, it's good. The Home Alone one's awesome.
I love them.
Mm-hmm.
His line reads are really, really good in that film. Walter Peck is an excellent character, and it's a testament to William Atherton.
And another great name.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
I just buy him as like a snooty government bureaucrat too. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a movie late in his career. I don't know if we're going to get to talk about it. The best part about the movie, I watched a little over half of it, is the movie starts with him being an asshole as a lawyer, and then it starts the movie, and then it goes into flashbacks after that. And I'm like, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to start a movie.
You can do it well. We got another 9 years until our next review. So between 85 and 94, he does a couple episodes of The Twilight Zone between 85 and 87. 3 different characters in 3 different episodes of Murder, She Wrote. Well, I don't think we've ever mentioned Murder, She Wrote in 84 episodes. That's a new one, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, so that's fun. That was a big show, obviously.
Is that Angela Lansbury?
Yep.
Lansbury.
Is that Angela Lansbury?
I've been listening to her as Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast quite often recently. And let me tell you, she has ridiculous flow. She is a tremendous rapper.
Christine Baranski Jr., a big fan, huh?
Big fan.
I was going to say, after that, you're going to show Christine Baranski, you're going to show her Manchurian Candidate, Angela Lansbury's finest performance, if you ask me. That's a real family-friendly movie there, James.
I found out Beauty and the Beast was Angela Lansbury and fucking Jerry Orbach, and I was like, what the hell? I'm like, they tremendous performers.
1985, he plays the corrupt Professor Hathaway in Real Genius, a movie where you get to see Val Kilmer be a sassy little butthole the whole movie. And I think Atherton nails his character here of being the guy who's just, he's a sleazeball. Huge sleazeball.
This is one of his bigger, meteor roles as that asshole character. Because he's not just showing up in scenes, he's carrying some of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
He does a great job in this movie. And I have a very, very random piece of trivia about this movie, because this movie is a massive impact on pop culture.
I learned about the popcorn scene at the end. Craig, if that's what you're going to talk about.
Nope.
I was kind of impressed by that scene and how they were able to pull that off. I was like, this was pretty cool what they just did.
I think I hate him even more in this than I did in Ghostbusters, because the only thing worse than a fart-sniffing government bureaucrat is a fart-sniffing professor.
I enjoyed it. I think it's a worthwhile watch. Again, another one that's not streaming for free.
They had to pop the popcorn to fill that house. They actually did it. That's real effects. It took them 3 months nonstop popping popcorn to get that much popcorn.
Dude, it's impressive.
Yeah, that would fall into the category of impractical effects.
Yes.
Literally, it's a 3-month shoot.
3 months of popcorn.
They're doing other shots, but there's that 1 or 2 team members that are just popping popcorn all day. That's all they're doing. It's a pretty cool practical effect that they do at the end of that movie by pushing that out of the house.
Was that in the credits? Popcorn maker?
It should be.
I mean, it should be.
I'd be pissed if I did it for 3 months and my name wasn't in the credits.
Popcorn wizard James D'Imperio.
Wizard.
If we ever dig into weird stories of Hollywood, I want a documentary of the popcorn guy from Real Genius. I think it'd be hilarious.
Hell yeah.
3 months nonstop means you got to be comfortable with it going at night. So there's a night shift for the popcorn. You can't just have that going with nobody there.
Are they protecting the popcorn? I feel like a month and a half in, you have to protect it too. There's this whole security thing with it.
Oh, man.
They actually had to treat it with chemicals to stop it from degrading.
I'm sure.
They wrote in there, it became a huge concern of theirs that birds would eat it because they would instantly die. And so it became, not only was it an issue making it, it was an issue destroying it as well.
The Equalizer, 1987 to 89, 3 episodes of that. We've seen a lot of this show recently. I feel like almost every actor the past 4 episodes was on The Equalizer in the 80s. Big show. Makes sense.
Based on the general plots of Murder, She Wrote and The Equalizer, it's very odd that he has 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Did he get killed or is he recurring characters? That's very strange.
Murder, She Wrote, 3 distinct, unique characters. So,
okay, that's odd.
I'm pretty sure The Equalizer was the same character.
Okay.
And Murder, She Wrote was over a 6-7 year period, too. The other biggie in there, 1988's Die Hard, playing Richard Thornburg.
Dick.
Eat your heart out, Channel 5.
Dick.
The worst.
This is my favorite. My favorite performance. This is my second favorite movie ever behind Goodfellas.
Oh,
love this movie.
I've seen this movie probably 500 times. To the point where I've seen this movie so much that I actually forgot he was in Ghostbusters when we said we were doing him. I was like, what else is he even in besides Die Hard? He plays a news reporter who is trying to break the story of the takeover of the Nakatomi Plaza, and he just is a thorn in the side of John McClane in every which way. Total asshole looking for his 15 minutes of fame.
Rigby, you were talking 80s assholes in movies.
Mm-hmm.
You got the second best one also in this movie, Paul Gleason as
Yes.
Dwayne T. Robinson.
Jesus Christ, pal. Could be a fucking bartender for all we know. I probably quote this movie more than any, and I don't say that lightly because I quote a lot of movies. I just love it. Never gets old.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Incredible movie.
Holly McClane does what we all want to do at the end of the movie, and that's punch William Atherton in the face. Great.
It's so deserved. I cannot. I forgot about that part because I haven't watched it. I haven't revisited this movie as much as I should. And when I saw that, I was like, "What the? He's the worst in this movie. He's so awful.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good too.
He's so good at it.
He is awesome as just the jerk. I mean, he's getting points just on his Munson Meter score just for being in Die Hard and being obviously not the main villain because that's Hans Gruber, but for a side character, just being the biggest jerk. He nails it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a throwaway role, really. It's not something that you would ever think that anybody would get remembered for, and he turns it into something.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of that movie, is that every supporting role in that movie is brought out to number 11 in it. Every supporting performance is great in that movie.
Couldn't agree more.
This is the second movie from that documentary series that he's in, of the movies that made us, and there's 3 wild facts about this movie that it just floored me. One is that this movie, written to be the sequel to the movie The Detective starring Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
When it came out, Frank Sinatra contractually had the rights to play John McClane, and he had to turn it down in order for them to cast somebody else.
Thank God.
And then they cast Bruce Willis. Everybody thought it was going to flop because they thought he was a joke. And when he was in the trailers and they would show it and people would start booing. And then my final one that I loved, they tricked Alan Rickman on the scene where he falls from the building. And they told him they're going to drop him on 3. And instead they dropped him on 1. So the look on his face was actually pure fear as he was falling.
Mm-hmm. William Atherton plays, I don't know if we will talk about, but he plays just as big a role in Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He gets to enjoy the fruits of his labor in that one, too.
Yeah, in both of them, in different ways, he compromises the safety of everybody.
He's the worst. He's the worst person ever.
He exposes who his wife is. So if Rickman sees Holly Gennaro, he knows that's his wife. And in the second one, he's reporting from this plane that they're all going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And they just happen to turn on Fox Channel, and they're getting a live report from Dick Thornburg from the bathroom of a plane.
That's why it's hilarious, because if you're the ambulance chasing journalist, that person definitely exists, and Atherton does a really good job portraying him.
Crushes it.
Him being in the second one, it feels like that was a reward for what he did with that character in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that person could be anything, but they're like, this guy's, he killed this. Let's bring him back to do this thing again. They expanded it in an interesting way.
Agree.
I recently went to that airport, and it's nowhere as big as it seems in the movie.
Dulles?
Yes.
Die Hard 2, Die Hard are underrated.
I think Die Hard 2 is underrated too. I like it. I like
Great
Die Hard
movie.
2.
Holds up.
My favorite way that John McClane kills the bad guy too, and that's with the jet fuel at the end of Die Hard 2. I don't know why I like that so much. It's super creative.
Yeah.
Those movies are super violent.
Which one's the one with Samuel L? Is that the third one?
Die Hard with a Vengeance. Also amazing.
Okay, that's my favorite one.
I like that one as well.
Awesome.
That's the one I grew up watching when I was a kid. I've seen that movie probably like 20 times. I would just watch it on repeat as a kid. Probably shouldn't be watching that as a kid, but I definitely was.
There are worse things you could watch. There are worse.
Made you who you are today.
Unfortunately, Atherton does not, or Dick Thornburg does not make an appearance in that one.
No.
Nope. His dick went limp by the third one.
Be interesting to see if that lines up with when he was straight.
I was just gonna say, James, it's time for a joke, James.
He's been straight for 11 years by this point.
Career's thriving when you're gay.
He's been in a beard relationship for 11 years at this point, and it's going well, I guess.
Oh, 11. All right. Damn, actually, that's a long time.
91. He's an Oscar, plays Overton, a movie with Chaz Palminteri and many, many other supporting actor types. I don't remember his role in the movie, but if you're looking for a spoof of a gangster film, it's a pretty solid one. It's pretty entertaining.
I covered this movie, and I don't remember him.
Same here.
There's so many, in 84 episodes, we've only talked about Tales from the Crypt a few times. It might be 2 times, and what's hilarious is the 2 actors we've covered that are both in Tales from the Crypt are from the same episode.
Oh, word? Which episode?
It's from the Easel Kill Ya episode, which is led by Tim Roth, also Dan Craig covered episode. I talked about it where he starts painting death paintings and ends up consuming him and he becomes a murderer. Again, I don't remember William Atherton's role in it. I just think it's hilarious. We've covered it twice and it's from the same episode.
That's awesome.
So great.
That was such a good show.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was.
Great theme song too.
Tales from the Hood, also good.
93, The Pelican Brief, alongside Stanley Tucci and John Lithgow, plays Bob. Maybe not his best name.
No, it's probably his worst.
This is Bob.
I like this movie. It's rated not great, but I like this movie. It's a little overlong and a little slow, but overall, I don't have a lot of takes on it. I like this movie. It's a good time for this genre of movie. It fits right in there. It's something you should definitely watch.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a Tom Cruise movie?
Now, Julia Roberts.
Denzel and Julia.
Denzel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love I named Tucci and Lithgow. I did not name either of the main 2 characters in the film. But Munson references here. All right, lowest critic score. 95's TV movie The Virus plays Dr. Hathaway.
This is about to be the shortest review I've ever had, so we'll get through this quickly. If you're dying, no pun intended, to watch this movie, go ahead and you can find it on YouTube. However, don't watch the far more entertaining and campy version starring Brian Bosworth. That was the one I was hoping this was going to be, but this one's from 1995.
See, I thought this was the Jamie Lee Curtis version.
I did too.
No, the Jamie Lee Curtis version was far better, and I remember William Atherton not being in that movie. Virus is a made-for-TV movie in 1995. The movie actually has a pretty strong cast of good character actors. Stars Nicolette Sheridan of Desperate Housewives, William Devane of probably the greatest sitcom in the last 20 years, which is The Grinder, starring Rob Lowe and Fred Savage. If you haven't watched that, stop listening to this podcast right now and go watch that. It's incredible.
I've never heard of that show once.
It's unbelievably funny. It's unbelievably funny.
It's the first time that's ever come across my brain. I gotta check it out.
Those words.
Is that a Good Burger spinoff, Greg?
No. Rob Lowe is a famous TV actor, and they cancel his series. And William Devane and Fred Savage are a father-son lawyer tandem. And since Rob Lowe plays a lawyer on TV, he decides to go and help the family law practice. And he tries to be a lawyer in real life. It's very, very funny. It's probably Rob Lowe's best work. So William Devane and Rob Lowe and Fred Savage are killing it in that show. Anyways, back to a not as good show. The movie, it's directed by Armand Mastriani, and you may know him from such classics as Cameron's Closet, Desperate Justice, Come Die With Me, Sleep Baby Sleep, and some of his more later works would be Jane Doe, Now You See It, Now You Don't, Jane Doe, Till Death Do Us Part, and the very popular Jane Doe, Yes, I Remember It Well. So it's loaded with stars.
That's all Skinamax softcore porn, right? All of that.
It's not a very good movie. I lean on Wikipedia for quite a bit of my plot and research stuff for these movies. So I'll read you the paragraph Wikipedia has for this movie. This is based on the medical fiction novel Outbreak by Robin Cook. That's it. That's the entire plot on Wikipedia for this movie.
I was going to say, it sounds like we've covered this movie before.
It's literally based on the book Outbreak, which came out as a movie the same year. Its DB title was Formula for Death. So, I don't know. Maybe people know it as Formula for Death. I don't know. Anyways, here's my synopsis of William Atherton. We see William Atherton in the first quarter of the movie, and he's a royal asshole, shocker. And then he treats this doctor, played by Nick Lachert, very poorly. He's very condescending. She saves the world in the middle half of the movie, and at the end, he's super nice to her, and he couldn't be happier for her.
Is it worth the 0% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes over there, Kerry?
I mean, I think it's overrated.
That's enough on the virus. I'm just upset you didn't say virus.
Because I knew it as Formula for Death, so I was kind of confused.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. We've got 1 year before our next big review here, and we've got two roles in here we'll mention. First and foremost, an episode of Nash Bridges. If you listen and one of my favorite shows from the 90s. Big Nash Bridges guy. Big Don Johnson guy there. Cheech Marin.
Mm-hmm.
And then he plays Alan from Frank and Jesse, a film with Bill Paxton, Rob Lowe. It is unintentionally funny as a film. The line reads, the writing's pretty bad, and the line reads are corny as hell in this movie. There's a scene with William Atherton where they're in a train car, and this group, Frank and Jesse and their crew, are robbing everybody. And William Atherton, stone face, is like, I know who all of you are, and names all of them. And then unabashedly, Rob Lowe says, well, you haven't met the whole family. And he pulls out his two double pistols. He goes, let me introduce you to the twins. And then Randy Travis is one of the gang of bandits, and he says, give him lead poisoning. And it's so funny because they so bad. Atherton's a badass in the film, but
that's odd.
For its unintentional camp is what I'll tell you.
So he's expanding the range, is what you're saying.
He's memorable in his scenes. I'll give him that. He stands out, and he's mostly because he's not saying corny ass lines like everybody else is in the movie.
All right.
But if you love Bill Paxton, I think it's worth checking out. But that's going to take us to our largest audience gap, which is something I'm sure Dan was overjoyed to return to, and that was 1996's Biodome, and he plays Dr. William Faulkner.
This is the review I came for tonight.
Let's go, baby.
Now, boys, I love being here, and I really do. It really is an honor, to be a part of this show, and I truly, sincerely mean that. That being said, this is easily one of the worst movies I've ever had the displeasure of experiencing in my 46 years on this planet. We mentioned Real Genius earlier, where Billy A plays Dr. Jerry Hathaway. Biodome is as if somebody looked at Real Genius and said, yeah, let's do that, but make it not funny and double annoying and not use William Atherton as nearly as much as we should. Plays Dr. Noah Faulkner, and the English teacher in me certainly realizes that William Faulkner, Nobel Prize winner for literature, is probably spinning in his grave at the very mention of his name, even as a surname, in this god-awful piece of crap. He's only in the movie for, please chime in if you know. It felt like 7 minutes maybe out of the 1 hour and 34-minute runtime. He may only be in it for seven. I'll give you.
But it's an important role. He is the main bad guy.
He is the main bad guy, but he disappears for a solid 40 minutes. Like in the
because he's going crazy, Dan. He spent a lot of time in isolation in the bio.
that is true, and the movie loses any kind of momentum it might possibly have. Like he's got a chance in the beginning to maybe save it. Like he's got some smarminess to him that we've all grown accustomed to, but man, is he wasted. Yeah, you got a winner like William Atherton in your movie, and you just can't let him cook at all with these guys. I tried desperately to find some interview where he talked about this movie and had something to say about it, and I could find nothing at all about it. But I did find there's a lot of memorabilia on eBay from this movie that he is personally signed and been verified. So he can't hate it too much for him to be able to put out that stuff. So if you're interested in any memorabilia, the top dollar amount was like $35 for a picture of him with Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin out there. So if anyone's interested in some of that, could be the only thing you might save from this film.
In the top 3 William Atherton movies, where would you put this?
7.
Everybody knows, it's not a secret, I have a soft spot. I mean, I love a Goofy movie, so I love Pauly Shore in that. I enjoy him in Son-in-Law. I'm one of the non-Pauly Shore haters because I recognize what he is. Encino Man, like, come on. Wheeze the juice. Like, let's live our best lives. It's not a good movie. It's something I saw a ton when I was a kid, so I have like a connection to it. But I know you said that he's not on screen a ton, but the story largely revolves around his character as Faulkner in this movie. When you watch a lot of his stuff, he actually, like, a lot of his characters are one-note bad guys, and they're memorable. But he actually has a turn in this film, which you don't see a lot from William Atherton's characters. So I will say that.
I'll give you that. And to his credit, he does look like he's having a good time in it. So, like you said, it couldn't have been a totally painful experience for him. Some other things about the film: it got the Stinking Bad Movie Award for most painfully unfunny comedy.
This was a bizarre watch for me. I don't hate this movie as much as I'm confused by it. I watched it when I was like younger, so I kind of have like loose memories of it, but I never liked it. I mean, easily one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like I say that every time now. I'm finding one of those.
Absolutely.
There's really no way to describe this. It's said without just saying it. I don't get Pauly Shore. I never got it. Don't understand it. And I remember as a younger person watching this and just being like, well, this is just like white people shit. Like, okay. Like, I don't need to get it. It's Tom Green. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I was going to say mid-90s white people shit, even worse.
Yeah, like that's just what it is. So I kind of write it off as that. So I don't hate it because I'm like, there's people that like really, that this was a thing because of that. So like, it's not for me. It was a weird double feature. I watched this and then I watched Jersey Shore Shark Attack.
Oh, baby.
And almost quit the podcast.
Damn. It would have been understandable.
Oh, save that one. I'm very interested in that review. It's coming, baby.
Is that movie based on a true story?
Yeah, Joey Fatone got murdered by a shark on the board. Don't you know?
That's crazy.
So for clarification, Dan, you didn't like this movie?
Yeah, let's make it clear.
All right, well, let's keep it cruising here. After keep it cruising. Oh, look at that. Pauly Shore and just incepting into my language here.
No.
97, Hoodlum, another Tim Roth crossover. He plays Thomas. He plays the DA in this one. Tim Roth's the baddie in this film. I don't think we really talked about much in the Tim Roth episode, but another bad guy in the frame. Probably actually not the bad guy. Probably the one who was supposed to be good, but in the frame of the movie makes him look like the bad guy. 3 episodes of The Practice is, again, a DA Pratt from 97 to 99. I put this in the chat. The first film I watched with him where he didn't play a villain was in 1997's Mad City. He plays Dolan, a news reporter, which I thought was interesting.
I've never seen this, and both Dustin Hoffman and John Travolta this is mid-90s. They were huge stars, but I still have never seen this, and good to hear Atherton played a non-jerk news reporter in this one.
For once, it was weird. It's an okay movie. John Travolta, basically, doesn't really want to rob the bank. Dustin Hoffman plays a reporter who has essentially befriended him inside the bank and is trying to talk him off the ledge and coordinate with the authorities. So it's okay. It's not great.
That is not what I thought it was about at all.
What do you think it was about?
I thought it was about like city government.
No.
I'm thinking of City Hall, I think, with Al Pacino. That's the movie I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we covered that a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yep. The Outer Limits, an episode of that in 98, and then the film that Case mentioned earlier, introducing Dorothy Dandridge alongside Halle Berry, plays a film exec named Daryl. He's only in like one scene in the film, and he's good in his scene, but it's obviously a Halle Berry showcase as Dorothy Dandridge.
It's a good movie.
It is. It's a really good TV movie. HBO film. Highly recommend.
Yeah, HBO, they were so far ahead of those the quote unquote made for TV movies back then. They made a lot of really good movies.
He was in The Crow Salvation. He played Nathan. That's a film I wanted to get to, but I couldn't track it down.
Nah, you don't. The movie sucks.
I don't want to see it. Is it bad? I saw it with Kirsten Dunst, right?
I remember watching the first one when I was younger and thinking it was like deep and artsy, and then watching the second one and hating it, and then rewatching the first one and realized I hated that one also. And I was like, oh, these are just movies I don't like at all, and they made 2 of them.
They made more than 2, didn't they? They made 5 of them. Oh. And this is the 3rd.
Well, there you go.
It must cost $0 to make.
I bet you with some graphic novel circles, these movies are probably very popular.
Yeah.
Probably. But anyways, with the turn of the century and the millennium came our last review, which is largest critic gap, and that is Atherton's role as Stanton in A Race to Space. And Aubrey has it.
2001 movie. I'll kind of get into that in a minute. James Woods is a German scientist who is hired by NASA to help build rockets to win the space race against the Russians. His son is having trouble in school because his dad is German. And his mom died a handful of years ago. This kind of sends him on like a downward spiral. He has to go to work with his dad when he leaves school so he can get his grades up, in which he stumbles on what I believe to be like a secret training of chimpanzees to go into space first because it's not safe for men to go. This is where he friends in a strange way a chimpanzee, helps train this chimpanzee to go into space, wins the love and affection of his father, wins the space race. We defeat the Russians and communism, and America reigns. This is like a family movie. It's a weird movie. James Woods has this accent that is just god awful.
Yes.
It's just brutal. It's a beatdown. Kid actually isn't really all that bad. I wouldn't necessarily say he's good, but in comparison to the adults that are around him, is a shining star.
How would you compare Alex Linz in Race to Space versus Alex Linz in Home Alone 3?
Home Alone 3, low-key masterpiece. So gotta give the edge to that one.
I like Home Alone 3. I'm not a hater. So
No, he's really not bad in this. Like stuff with him, and this is gonna be so bizarre to say out loud. The stuff with him and the chimpanzee works. Usually hate stuff like that. Not a big fan of these type of movies.
They have a chemistry.
They do, I guess. It's an odd movie, man. It's weird because it's one of those movies that I feel like this is a TV movie because it doesn't really look aesthetically like a real movie. So like you're kind of just in this uncanny place the entire time that you're watching it because what you're seeing doesn't really track. Music is terrible. It's just so bad. And took me out of what was going on a handful of times. But also, ultimately, the movie kind of works because it's basically just formula. Cute kid goes through like an emotional growth and helps, win the affection of his father. Like it works from someone who has issues with his dad and wanted the affections from his dad. It works every time. Like there's parts of this movie that genuinely are moving because the formula works, not necessarily a ton of what's happening in the movie. It's not a terrible watch. I wouldn't say that I align with the critics in their what is it, 71% Rotten Tomatoes?
71 to 39.
Yeah.
Probably closer in the middle. It's fine. It's fine for what it is.
Yep.
That's kind of what I would define it as. It's fine for what it is, and you'll get a lot of fun, unintentional humor.
And Atherton plays the exact character you would expect him to play. He plays like the director of the space program who's a dick.
Yeah.
And is kind of a hard ass and making sure they stick to the plan. Perfectly well cast.
He's in it for like 6 minutes.
Yep.
Tries to kill the chimpanzee.
We also get another William Devane sighting. That's exciting.
That's what I said when I saw him.
There we go. It's not a great use of your time, but it's not a glorious waste of time either.
Mm-mm.
Well, let's round this thing out. So that was 2001. So we've got essentially 20 plus years since then. But if you haven't picked up by now, we've hit most of the biggies. So some of the other ones since 2002, a couple episodes of Law and Order, being a guy from Connecticut and living in New York and doing the Broadway scene. Honestly, shocked it took him until 2002 to end up on Law and Order. But he did it. 2 episodes. One of my favorite films, Last Samurai, alongside Ken Watanabe. It gave me a reason to rewatch the film. Atherton is in the first 5 minutes of it as Tom Cruise's like tyrant of a boss. He packs a lot of punch for his few moments, but then it completely has nothing to do with him. It could have been really anybody, but Captain Nathan Holmgren. He's pretty good in his scenes. I'll give him credit.
Is this the scene where Tom Cruise's character is basically having a meltdown?
Yeah,
he gets fired as the rifle person.
He doesn't get fired. He's just drunk off his ass at the show and ends up having a PTSD moment in front of everybody and fires off a gun and ricochets it all over the place and almost kills a bunch of kids.
Okay.
And then he gets recruited by Billy Connolly to go train the Japanese infantry how to fight the samurai.
There you go.
But so he's in the very early part of the film. He goes to the voice acting side in 2003. In Justice League, he plays Dr. Destiny and John Dee in a couple episodes of that show. Superhero side, exactly what Rigby loves to hear. He's going to add a few bonus points there.
He's got a distinct voice, but I feel like a lot of the effectiveness of his delivery is that he looks like an asshole too. So I was curious if the voice work was as effective as the total package.
Good question.
He hadn't really done much voice work. That's an interesting thought.
That's a good question.
That's a great question. Did an episode of Boston Legal in 2005. A couple episodes of Desperate Housewives alongside our boy John Slattery in 2006. Great show.
Who died on that show by being impaled by a fence post.
2007, he's in The Girl Next Door. He plays adult David Moran, so kind of bookends the film. I got about halfway through the movie, and then I realized, wait, the story seems familiar. Oh, it's the exact same fucking story as Elliot Page in the movie American Crime. It's the exact same story about this crazy mom and her kids torturing a young girl in the basement.
Oh, dude, that's based on a fucking person out of Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Yep, local. Here, it's the same story, same film.
Same neighborhood?
Indianapolis specifically.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Alicia Cuthbert moves next door and she's a porn star.
That's what I thought this movie was the whole time.
That's a way better story. That's a way better story.
When I saw The Girl Next Door, I was racking my brain. I was like, where the fuck was William Atherton? Was he at the porn convention in that scene? Like, what's going on? I'm like, where? No, it's a really depressing.
It's a fucking torture movie.
I like the actual Girl Next Door, not this one.
It's a really bad film. Do not watch it.
It's also just the story you don't want to watch.
No.
It's like so fucking sad.
The version with Elliot Page is better, and that's a low bar, but it's definitely better than this one. This one's pretty rough.
Yeah,
this one's got a 67-61 critic fan, though. That's wild how high that is.
They love torture. The torture community got a hold of this. Big fans. It's the only thing I can surmise. And then between 2008 and 2012, he does 1 to 3 episodes of a lot of big time television shows that you've definitely seen or heard of. So Monk, Life, Lost, Law and Order, SVU, Castle, Workaholics. So lots and lots of TV around 2010. And he goes back to the theater side in 2011. He does a musical, Gigi, in LA. So he goes back to his bag where he got his start, which he had kind of stepped away from for a number of years.
A number of decades.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been a while since he's done that. But you know what pulled him back?
I wonder if he still had the pipes.
You're the one with the research on that one. You got to dig that up for us. But you know what brought him back from the musical side was getting offered a role in the next greatest Guido shark movie, Jersey Shore Shark Attack. He plays Dolan. And I really need to hear Aubrey's review as a shark movie enthusiast.
I love shark movies. I love almost all shark movies.
Almost.
Love earnest shark movies. I want like ones that try. The sci-fi channel craze of making movies. You generally believe most people that make movies are there to try to make really good movies. And I don't think when they were making this is post Sharknado, right? So this is like right in the midst of that time where they were just putting out absolute dog shit over and over again. And that was the bit. We're not really trying to make this movie good. Those movies I don't like. And that's what this is. Like this movie is just, it's terrible. And it doesn't ever bridge into so bad it's good because they're trying to be bad. So they're bad at being bad. So it can never actually make it good.
That sucks.
Everything about this is ridiculous. The most disappointing part about this movie is it's Jersey Shore Shark Attack. They're parodying the Jersey Shore people. So much so that the names are slightly different. Nookie is one of the girls' names, which I feel like they didn't put a ton of thought into that.
One letter difference.
They're kind of poking fun at them. Sharks don't eat them, which is why we're all here. I feel like they missed why we would want to see this movie, and it's because I would want to see these people eaten by sharks.
You want to see the Guidos get eaten, not Joey Fatone. Why did Joey Fatone have to get eaten by a shark?
Even though he was a bit of a dick in the movie for some reason. I don't understand. The Practical Jokers makes him seem like such a nice guy. Just like randomly this big time dick.
It's so good because he's standing maybe 15, 20 feet from the edge and this shark like leaps over to bite him and kill him.
I mean, if you're in one of those movies, that's how you want to go. You want to go in a ridiculous way.
He catches a stray.
Yeah, like Samuel Jackson.
Well, no, you can't reference what might be the greatest movie of all time.
Deep Blue Sea.
In the same. These are two different things. Different things. This movie, I just don't. I don't like these movies that like. These ones are the ones I'm like. These are a waste of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Was Atherton's character Dolan a nod to the popular Knicks owner James Dolan?
Based on what he was doing to the Jersey Shore pier, people from that area would probably think so.
Aces was actually a reference to Jimmy Dolan Shake and Bake from the era up there. That's what it was a reference to. It's an homage.
Wow, good pull, Kyle.
Hated that show.
And then you went to go do your laundry and go to the gym and tan, right?
Yeah, and I've been to the Jersey Shore before.
Too many sharks?
There are sharks there. There actually are sharks there.
See?
Based on a true story, Joey Fatone did die.
Based on a true story.
You guys are just laughing about
it. We should be more sensitive. You're right.
Aubrey, you're on a losing streak with shark movies.
I am.
Yeah, what was the last one that sucked? Oh, it was with Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jaws of Revenge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 2012, he plays Winston in The Citizen.
So this is the movie I referenced early where the movie starts with him as a lawyer roasting this guy on an immigration court case. And then he asks this like very difficult question, and then it flashes back to his story on his immigration stuff. I watched the first half or so, not an awful movie. Critics hated it, fans liked it.
And to be fair, too, since 2013, so in the past 10 years, he has 7 credits. So he's not been terribly busy in the past 7 years, or 10 years. There's not been much to pick from, including he played Viceroy Berto Mercado in 5 episodes of Defiance in 2014. And then I think I found conflicting reports. Was he in Ghostbusters Afterlife with Chris Hemsworth in 2016? Does he make an appearance in that movie? Like, it's not on IMDb, but I read that he did in other places. Like, it was on the numbers, but it wasn't on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, so I'm not entirely sure.
The last 3 credits I have from him are Gin, Clinical, and he was the cinematographer for Not the Science Type. I don't see Ghostbusters on my list.
Oh, he did cinematography. Look at him.
I sure did.
Is this the 2016 Ghostbusters? I don't remember that one very much. I only saw it the one time.
Yeah, I guess it's not Afterlife. That's the most recent one. This is the all-female rendition of it. So I don't know. The internet would never lie, though. So I have to buy it, right? It's important. Okay, yeah, there's not much else otherwise that's worth noting. So we're just going to jump straight into top performances and see what Rigby's got for us.
Well, there's not much to note on this one either. He is one of the few actors that we've covered that I could not locate a top performances, best known roles. So
no super fans out there.
No, I figure we just do our favorite roles. I kind of already named them, but my favorite role of his is, and I think it's his most memorable, is Die Hard.
I'd agree.
Some will disagree and say Ghostbusters, but Die Hard to me will always be top for him.
I mean, this is going to shock. I think his best role is Sugarland Express. Like, best pure acting role.
Agree.
Sugarland Express. Not most memorable, but best. So I would put top 3 as Ghostbusters, Die Hard, and Sugarland Express.
Yeah, that'd be my 3 too, for the same reasons. Because Sugarland Express was, what he did there was incredible.
He's also like the main star.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's.
Yep.
He found his bread and butter as like a side character, but he's the main guy in that movie.
My top 3 would be Die Hard, and then based on what you guys said, I certainly trust that Sugarland Express would be number 2, and then number 3 would be Real Genius.
I was going to say Real Genius would be a top 5er for me as well, and then probably, I mean, I know as much as I don't like the movie The Day of the Locust, he's pretty good in that film too.
So what's funny is I was in my research, I do these searches for like top memorable roles, whatever, and I couldn't find one, but there's an article from 2022 from Collider that's called, it was something to the effect of 15 actors who like can't shake a role that they'll always be known for, or something like that, to that effect. And Atherton was on here, and instead of Die Hard, it was Walter Peck from Ghostbusters, which I thought was interesting because I can't see him as anything else but Richard Thornburg.
I mean, he got tased
and punched.
I mean, it's awesome. He's got great physicality.
But he got his Peabody Award out of it. That's all that matters.
That's right.
Honorable mention, don't sleep on him. It's Dr. Faulkner from Biodome. That's all I'm saying. And say the movie was good. I said I like him in the role. Okay, Munson Meter time. What we do, we rate every actor on a scale of 0 to 100 based on a variety of factors that could include longevity, project choice, pop culture impact, acting range, awards footprint, any other talents they might have, personal life, comedic chops, box office success, or anything else that matters to us as Munsons. And this time, we will start with Rigby.
Yeah, I mean, is this the first time we've talked about Die Hard?
Yeah.
Yes.
So seeing that Die Hard's my second favorite movie, I don't think we talked about Goodfellas yet either. Goodfellas is my first favorite movie. You're gonna laugh, but he gets 5 points just for being in Die Hard and being one of the main characters in Die Hard.
I think that's fair.
Ghostbusters, obviously a classic, gets points for that. I really wish I would have seen Sugarland Express just because of the whole Spielberg thing and also of Kyle's kind words about the movie and sort of his performance. That to me is my biggest regret about the episode. Hopefully I'll be able to watch it post-episode. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes without saying. There's not much range there. While he is perfectly cast as like an 80s jerk, the 80s were a long time ago and can't really say he's done much since then. So I hate to do it to you, Mr. Atherton, but you're going to get one of my lowest scores and give you a 58. That actually might be my lowest if I think of...
I think it is. Let me...
One of them.
I don't know. It's I'm conflicted, right? Same reason Rigby's talking about. I love his character so much in Die Hard. Love his character in Real Genius. There's odd question marks that I have about his career when we've looked at the path of 83 other performers. The way you guys are talking, this dude hit a home run in his third movie ever as the leading character. And it's tough for us to even find another leading role. So it's just a very strange, I don't know if he doesn't want to do that. I don't know. The roles I love him in, I love him. Anytime I see him on, it brings you back and you can count on it. The one really positive I will say about his performance is in a lot of roles where he's cast as that villain. He kind of is a moral compass. You can use him to gauge how shitty other people are. In a lot of roles, that's super effective, right? Like, he added such a crazy dynamic to the movie Die Hard to the true villains of that movie. And in both Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 2, he adds a very powerful dynamic to that role that not a lot of other performers do. But it's just not enough for me to crank up his score and add a bunch of points for this and that. I'm going to give him a 55.
I'm going to take like the Corey Wallace approach with him for evaluation, in that his career and trajectory, and like I want to know more about his manager and the choices that he made along the way for his career, because I've watched a lot of stuff with him. I think he steals scenes every time he's on screen. I mean, I look at Last Samurai. He's on the screen for a couple minutes, and yet he's compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I watched him in Sugarland Express. I know he can be a lead. I know he can be a captivating, nuanced lead. I know he can do it, but he just didn't find those roles. I mean, maybe it was competitive. Maybe it was, he had bad representation. Maybe he just didn't care to do those things. He maybe doesn't have the spotlight. He seems, other than his conversion from being gay to straight, there's not a lot of information out there.
Other than, that massive, elephant in the room. Who knows what happened,
But you get away with anything in the 80s, so that wouldn't have stopped most actors at that point in time. So he's just a fascinating human in a really secret way, because you just don't know a ton about him. He's clearly a very talented performer. I think he has more range than people give him credit to, but he just doesn't take roles that allow him to put that range on display. He's very good at what he does, but because you don't get to see him do more like the Sugarland Express and Real Genius throughout the rest of his career, then it's hard to kind of give him a high score. So, and there's a guy on YouTube named William Atherton who's a dog trainer, and so that hurts his pop culture impact, because if you look at William Atherton, 60% of the videos are some dude who's a dog trainer. So that's not good for your SEO.
Brilliant move by that dog trainer. You got some easy marketing out of that deal. William Atherton from Die Hard? The dog trainer. Oh, okay.
So with all that, the nuance of my score, I'm going to give him a 53. All right, Dan Craig, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm going to look at him this way. The guy has worked steadily in Hollywood, in theater. Next year will be 50 years that he will celebrate 50.
Holy shit.
And that's pretty impressive, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 films in the National Film Registry, Die Hard and Ghostbusters. He's one of these guys, when you see him in a movie, you're in for something, right? That's going to be pretty interesting. I think most actors would kill to have one movie, right? That is, like I said, deemed culturally significant. He has 2, and if you throw Sugarland Express in there, which, again, I couldn't agree more with your guys' take on his performance there. I would love to find out why Spielberg never worked with him ever again. And I feel like Spielberg had a lot of roles later on in his career, that would have been tailor-made for Atherton. I'm thinking Peter Coyote and E.T. would have been a great Atherton role. Even one of the scientists in Jurassic Park could have worked really well for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious as to what happened there. He never worked with Goldie Hawn again either, so maybe he just didn't love his experience on that film for whatever reason. But anyway, I think the he's not a Brad Pitt, he's not a Leonardo DiCaprio, but he's a solid performer who has stood the test of time. And for me and for my childhood, he's in two of the seminal movies of my experience. So that's going to bump him up just a touch, in my overall estimation. I'm going to give him a 61.
Aubrey.
Yeah, it's a hard score to give because his career is interesting. As you guys laid out, he gets points for Sugarland Express because I'm just blown away by he comes out of that. He comes with that out the gate, and it was just so good. Die Hard, Ghostbusters, huge points for that because they're just notable franchises. And he's a good actor. He's not bad. He comes and does the thing that he does that he's supposed to do, and he does it pretty well when he's there. There's just not a large at the work from him, in terms of seeing him really get to go. And that's a big thing for me when I do these scores is I want to see what are you at your best? I want to see you really get after it. You just don't get a lot of that with him, which is disappointing. So it's a little hard to place, but he's a good actor. It's a good time watching his movies. I'm going to go a little lower. I'm going to go 51.
All right, James, round us out.
Was a great asshole. Is in some iconic roles. I thought Sugarland Express was good. Just not a huge fan. Give him a 47.
Ooh. All right. With that, that gives William Atherton, Bill Atherton, a 54.17, which, as a few of you looking at the spreadsheet will see, that puts him in 83rd place. So just above Chris O'Dowd with the 53.5. And slightly behind Annie McDowell.
Feels fair.
Good job, Dan. You're the kiss of death for any of these actors.
And give Chris O'Dowd time, that score might go up.
I will tell you this: if I read anything where Goldie Hawn dislikes him, I am editing my score immediately. I might give him a 0. That's my girl. If he messed with her and she doesn't like him, I don't like him. So just FYI.
Aubrey, what has he got coming?
Not a lot, which isn't really surprising as we laid out what his career's been looking like. This tells you everything you know about the role that he's got coming up. He is the father in a movie called Where Did the Adults Go? So I'm not thinking on a lot of screen time there. There's not really a ton of people. There's nobody in here that I know of, really. Could be anything. And then, I don't know, is it a spoiler? The Ghostbusters sequel.
That would be fun.
I mean, that's the bread and butter.
Yeah, it makes sense seeing him back there, which
Anytime they'd call, I would say, yep, I'm in. When do you want to make 20 more of these things? I'll put an extension on my house.
pretty sure he's been waiting for this call.
Yeah.
I saw the numbers on Afterlife. You guys did pretty good. You're doing another one of these.
Uh-huh.
If anything, that'll at least be fun. So something to look forward to.
All right. Next podcast is hitting on June 22nd, and we're bringing back Dames Marvs, who was with us for John Turturro, Daryl Hannah, and Bryan Cranston. Dames is always a lot of fun. One of the good ones. He will make you laugh. And the wheel selected one of these 5 actors, and Dames decided to join us for one of these 5. So we've got Jesse Eisenberg, Jennifer Lawrence, Tim Allen, Tara Strong, and Jodie Foster. What do we like, dislike?
There's a lot to like here. I'm a big Jesse Eisenberg guy, so I'm in on that.
I was just gonna say there's a ton to like there. I'm with you, Aubrey.
Tara Strong's the only one that doesn't immediately ring a bell to me, but the other 4 are great.
Tara Strong is most known. She's a voice actor. She has like 600 credits. She's like the Eric Roberts of voice acting, but good at what she does. That's the best way I'd put it. It'd be a very interesting episode to do.
It's a hell of an analogy.
Well, now I have to look up.
Like if you think of like animated characters, you're like, 50-50 chance Tara Strong probably voiced that character.
Wow.
Oh,
Tara, yeah, all right, I'll look it up.
If I'm being honest, I don't want to do the Tim Allen episode because I think I would be less of a fan after watching and looking at his entire body of work.
Buzz Lightyear's iconic.
got some gems in there.
I mean, I'd watch The Santa Claus, obviously fantastic. Home Improvement.
Santa Claus is actually better than I remember it being. I rewatched it. It's pretty funny.
So good.
It's probably my favorite Christmas movie. Like Aubrey loves The Grinch. I love Santa Claus.
Santa Claus is good.
This is like my number 2 or 3. Santa Claus is up there.
Kyle probably wants to do Tim Allen just for the Detroit love or the Michigan love.
We could all do some cocaine and record on cocaine.
The Jennifer Lawrence episode would be amazing.
You do love Jennifer Lawrence.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I agree.
You are a fan.
I'm a fan.
She's great.
Be a lot of fun to go through that.
Some Hunger Games, another Return to the Passenger side. We'll almost cover the full cast of Passengers at that point with Michael Sheen and Chris Pratt. Just have Fishburne left.
I love that movie.
Passengers, I thought the movie, I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it, even though we've covered 3 of the 4 actors because everyone says it sucks every time we talk about it.
Well, that movie got blasted. I am well aware. I'm alone on this island. I love that movie, though. I don't know why. It just works for me.
You'd be alone on that ship, too.
I missed that one.
If we do that one, I have Passengers, like pajama pants that I got as a promotion from going to see it in theaters. So I'll wear those.
So random.
Jodie Foster is the one that intrigues me the most. I think Jodie Foster would be a ton of fun.
Of course.
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, I think we'd watch more high-level movies with Jodie Foster.
Yeah,
Let's say that'd probably be the highest score, right?
definitely.
Of that group, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Silence of the Lambs,
Unbelievable movie.
Taxi Driver.
Unbelievable movie.
Contact.
The Accused. Contact's great too.
Jodie Foster in The Accused.
The Accused is good.
I know.
It's a little far fetched, but she's awesome in it.
Oh yeah.
Inside Man.
Oh yeah, Inside Man.
Aw.
Inside Man.
Panic Room.
Oh, Panic Room. That's a
I'm
good
just
one.
looking through the rest of her stuff right now. I really don't. As much as I think the Tara Strong episode would be interesting, I don't want to build that show notes.
Yeah, I agree.
That's awful.
Like, here's a clip of her as Dill Pickles.
Dude, she's got 639 credits, bro.
I have to be honest, Tommy is the protagonist, but Dill is quite the little side.
I mean, she's a legend, but like, man, she voiced the character in Guardians 3.
Yeah, she's on Loki too.
Mm-hmm.
She's a voice on Loki.
Be a fucking journey in itself. All right, so who do we think Dame's mobs chose?
Who did he pick last time? He chose
Turturro, Daryl Hannah, Bryan Cranston.
Jodie Foster.
Jodie.
Feels like a Jodie Foster thing.
Dan, who would you pick if you had to repeat back to back?
Yeah, Jodie's the right answer there.
Jodie Foster. Okay,
She got the most great stuff. 2-time Academy Award winner.
here we go. That's a sales job for the next episode, potentially episode 85.
I want Tim Allen.
All right, well, Dan doesn't decide. Dames doesn't decide. James and his Tim Allen fandom doesn't decide. The wheel decides, and we'll see what happens. Dan Craig, we've reached the peak of the mountain, my friend. You're always great. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Love seeing you guys. This is great. Thank you.
You're awesome, dude. Thanks for joining us, man.
Any plugs or words of wisdom for our audience?
Ooh, jeez.
Don't smoke crack.
That brings me to the next point. Don't smoke crack.
All right, man. Well, until the next time, number 7. Lucky number 7. Next time we'll bring you in. It'll be a good time.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Thanks, Dan.
Well, as we wrap things up, you can always find us on Twitter, Munsons at Movies. Catch us on the gram, Munsons at the Movies. You can email us, munsonsatthemovies@gmail.com. Any final thoughts from Billy Atherton?
I want to know more about what you do here. Frankly, there have been a lot of wild stories in the media, and we want to assess any possible environmental impact from your operation.
Munsons out.
All right, let's go. Thank you for the education, gentlemen. We've just received a PhD in stupidity. Doctor, shall we? Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.